Hi first grade musicians, Mrs. Steinhoff here to go over some solfege with you. We'd been working on solfege at school before we started doing our learning from home, and the worksheets you have for this week are a little bit tricky with solfege, so I figured I'd give you a short video to kind of help you remember how solfege works. If you remember, solfege is a way for us to read music by giving the different notes that we see names, and it also helps us to hear those pitches before we even sing them. The ones we focus on in first grade are mi, sol, and la. On the worksheets that you have sent home, you also have some tricky stuff where I add a couple of others, but for this lesson we'll focus on the ones that we've been looking at the most. And if you want, you can check out the second grade video too. But for today, let's look at sol, mi, and la. I'm going to start over here with mi. For now, mi lives in this space. And when you look closely, you'll see that the note head, the black circle part, is in a space. Then if you look over at sol, sol is also in a space, but it's higher up, which means that mi is lower than sol. And if I were to sing that, it would sound like this. Mi, sol. Watch my hands, how they get higher, and listen to my voice, how it gets higher. Mi, sol. And if you remember my silliness and goofiness from class where I was moving all over the place, I might scrunch down for mi, and then I'm going to go up higher for sol. Mi, sol, sol, mi. Okay, so try and think back to the silliness of Mrs. Steinhoff in the music room and how I bounced up and down for the different pitches. Now if you look closely, after sol, there's a neighbor. And the reason that's a neighbor is because I'm not skipping over anything like I did between mi and sol. I skipped over a line. I'm not skipping over anything. I'm going right from sol to la. And la is also higher. So now when you hear me sing and move, I'm going to go higher up with my voice and my body. So I started at mi, then sol, then la. And la is only a little bit higher than sol. And my hand signs are going to do the same thing. Mi, sol, la. So mi is a tabletop, sol is that swinging gate, and la is like a sideways C. So mi, sol, la. Mi is in a space, sol is in the next space higher, and la and sol are neighbors. It's as if I were sol and then I went next door. There's a brown house next door, and I went to see my neighbor there. My neighbor would be la. Now at the bottom here, I have an example where I have sol starting the same space as it does up here in my example, but I didn't label the others. So now I want to go through and label all those other pitches there. So we have to decide, is Mrs. Steinhoff's pattern going higher or lower? Do we repeat any pitches? And we're going to label them and then sing it. Now up here, I just showed you where mi, sol, and la live for now. But down here, they're all over the place. And that's because in music, we know that we don't just sing one note over and over again. We sing all different patterns of notes and pitches and rhythms. So that's the example I have here. I'm starting with sol. Think to yourself, did Mrs. Steinhoff go higher or lower, or stay the same? And if I did go higher or lower, where did I go to? If you said higher, you're right. And we know that one step higher, or the neighbor of sol, is la. And now I need to go to the next note. So I went from sol to la. Now, same question. Am I going higher or lower or staying the same? And if I am moving somewhere, where am I moving to? It might be somewhere that you've already seen me at. If you said sol, you've got it, because I just stepped back down to where it already was. But now I'm going space, line, space. I'm skipping a line and I'm going down to another space. So which note in first grade music did we say is lower than sol when I'm skipping the one that would be in between. If you said me, you've got it. And now my last question, am I stepping down, am I stepping up, or am I staying the same? Or am I skipping somewhere for my last note? And if you said that I'm staying the same or repeating, then you've got it. So at the end I have me, me. I'm going to sing this pattern, and then I want you to sing it with me after. So here's my turn. Sol, la, sol, mi, mi. Try that with me. Here we go. Sol, la, sol, mi, mi. If I sing that with my hand signs, it would sound and look like this. Sol, la, sol, mi, mi. I'm going to now show you how our music notes can move around. We're still only going to look at sol, mi, and la, but I talked about how some of them are neighbors and where they live in that musical staff. Well, just like I live in one place, this is my house, I'm sitting in my living room. I haven't always lived in this house. I've moved around before, and I know that some of you have also moved around before. Now, I want you to think for a second. If Mrs. Steinhoff moved from this house to another house, would she change? So if Mrs. Steinhoff doesn't live here, but I go somewhere else, am I Mrs. Steinhoff still, or am I different? I'm still Mrs. Steinhoff, right? I just moved to a different place. So that can happen when we're talking about our solfege. Do does not have to stay in the same place. Mi does not have to stay in the same place. Sol does not have to stay in the same place. So all those different pitches that you've seen in your worksheet sent home, they don't have to live in one place. But if one of them moves, the rest of them have to move. So now I'm going to move mi to a line. And it's a line that's lower than where it was before. Before I had mi up here in this space, where that little squiggle is. But now we've moved. Well, if mi moved, then guess what? So do the others. Mi lives on a line. That means sol has to live on a line as well. But is sol higher or lower than mi? If you said higher, you've got it. So I skip the space, and I go to the next line, and there's sol. Okay? And then la, remember, is neighbors with sol. So if my name is Sol, my neighbor's name is La. And my neighbor lives higher than me, but only one step higher. So now La is going to go in a space. So now I'm going to do an example where I've moved around. And now mi, sol, ma are going to live in a different place. And my pattern's not going to be the same as it was before. So I'm going to start with my pattern on sol. Okay? Now this one's a little trickier. I don't have any notes that are going to repeat themselves, but I will have notes that come back. They just won't be repeated in order. So I started on sol. Do I go higher or lower to my next note? If you said lower, you got it. So what is lower than sol in first grade music? What do we skip down to in first grade music? Mi. Now look closely. I went from sol to mi, and I'm skipping back up to what? I'm going from sol, mi, back to sol, because there it is over here, and I see it again. It's not a repeat because it's not coming back right away, but it hasn't moved. Sol's not going to move in the middle of our musical example. Then after sol, I step up, and one step higher than sol we know is la. I went to my neighbor's house. But then I went back So I went up and then I'm coming back down. Sol again. And tell me, what do I end on? Skipping down to mi. So here's that pattern. I'm going to sing it once, and then I'm going to sing it again and have you join me. This one's a little trickier. Here I go. Sol, mi, sol, la, sol, mi. One more time, listening to Mrs. Steinhoff. Sol, mi, sol, la, sol, mi. Would you try that with me? Ready, go. Sol, mi, sol, la, sol, mi. So there is a mini lesson on our solfege. We know that sol and la are neighbors, and la is higher than sol. Mi is a skip down from sol. It's lower. My voice has to sing lower for it. And if I were to move and do all my silliness, I'm going to go higher and lower as I sing those different high and low pitches. So there you go. Hopefully that will help you with your worksheet. And like I said, if you want to challenge yourself, go check out the second grade video on their solfege too. It might help you with your worksheet, and it's going to be a good challenge for your voices.